Hi, I'm Deanna Mason with the Needle Mover Effect, and this is episode 4 of the Belonging Practice. Okay, so let's start by reading the passage from my last episode, which was Leviticus 19 9 through 10, which says this: When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not strip your vineyard bare, or gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the alien. I am the Lord your God. Okay, so in the last episode, which is episode 3, I talked about how in this place in the biblical narrative, God gives Moses instructions and commandments to reorder Israel's relationship with him as well as with one another. And in this passage in Leviticus, he introduces gleaning laws that are designed to care for his people, all of his people, knowing that they will include both landowners, the poor, and foreigners in the land. Okay. Today, I want to talk about why this reordering was needed in the first place. Okay. And this is no surprise to anyone. Reordering is needed because of the fracture of sin, or reordering is needed because of the fall of man. I'm an ambassador with an organization called the Chalmers Center. They're dedicated to changing how Christians respond to poverty. And the foundation of their approach to poverty alleviation helps us understand the fracture of sin, explaining how relationships were broken as a result of the fall of man. And because of sin, humanity experiences brokenness in our four key relationships. And I want to try to explain these four key relationships really concise in this video. So, relationship number one: broken relationship with God, or how we understand who He is, how we relate to God. Broken relationships with ourselves and how we understand who we are, or our identity in God. Broken relationships with others and how we understand our neighbors and how we relate to our neighbors. And a broken relationship with creation, how we steward work and earthly resources. Okay. So when I look at God's instructions to Israel regarding these gleaning laws that we read about in Leviticus, it makes me want to pause and ask the following question. Here's the question: If I understand that relationships with God and others and with creation were fractured by sin, how is God desiring to reorder these relationships for both the landowners and the poor and the foreigner in this passage? Okay. Now, as a middle class American, I've noticed a pattern in my own behavior and thinking, and it goes something like this: I'm the landowner, or I'm the one with material resources, so I'm the one that has answers for people without resources. Or, translation: landowners or people with materials know more than the poor or people without or with less materials. Or, landowners know how to fix the problems of those with less materials. Like, even when I say it, you can hear how broken this sounds, right? This wrong belief informs my responses, even when my responses are well intentioned. Even if I have good intentions to respond well, that is a broken anchor for my response. Broken people have broken responses, even when their intentions are good. And this applies to the landowner, the poor, and the foreigner, all of us. Leviticus 19 has challenged me to understand that without God's help, my responses to the poor or to injustice will always be rooted in my own brokenness if I don't allow my heart to be transformed by Jesus. So God is inviting all of us, landowners, the poor, and the foreigner, to be transformed and reordered in our relationships with Him, with ourselves, with one another, and with stewarding creation in order for His kingdom to be established on the earth. Because when His kingdom is established, we draw the world to Him. That's the only reason for all of this. So I volunteer with the Reading Literacy Initiative in my city, and we've recently begun hosting community meals around tutoring. These meals bring our parents and our students and our tutors together to hang out with each other in fellowship before the kids get to work practicing their reading and math skills. Okay. So on the first day of these meals, I was bringing the food and supplies from the parking lot to the second floor of the community center where we meet. It was a lot of work, it took multiple trips. So you can imagine by the time I got everything upstairs and ready to set up, I was exhausted. And a mom from our community who always arrives early with her two kids, she saw me and she asked if I needed help. She looked at me sweating bullets and out of breath. And I responded, she said, "Can I help you or can we help you?" I responded with, "No, I got it," which was a lie. It was obviously a lie because I did not have it. So I started to walk away and I stopped. I turned back around to her and I said, "I lied. I do need help. Will you help me?" And she and her kiddos took over the entire setup, setting up the dinner and everything in record time, much faster than I was going to be able to do it. Okay. So in my prayer time, I asked God to show me, why did I respond like that? What parts of my heart responded with a lie, first of all? And I wanted him to continue transforming me into someone who immediately opened myself up to the gifts of my neighbors in my community. This week, I want to invite you into a simple practice around something similar. All right. This practice is shaped by Leviticus 19. And the first thing I want you to do is notice the reflex you have. All right. Pay attention to moments when you feel the urge to fix or to serve so someone else doesn't, or you want to fix it for someone or serve for someone, especially when it comes to someone who has perceived fewer resources than you. Okay. And that urge may sound like, "I'm here to serve them, not the other way around," or "I know how to fix this because I'm educated or I have a certain amount of money. I can make this better for them." These are some of the broken responses I navigate, all right? And so when you notice it, just pause. And then the next thing, invite God's reordering to that reflex. In that pause, you can pray something simple like, "God, how are you desiring to reorder my relationships with you, with my own identity, and with my neighbor right now? Even how are you reordering my relationship with materials? How might restraint, listening, or shared participation honor their dignity in your own formation?" These are things you can pray about, and I promise you, God has a desire to respond. So rather than fixing what you perceive as broken in someone else's lived experience, practice leaving space for God to reorder relationships, allowing Him to be the one who is the sovereign fixer of what's broken, not in them, but in all of us.